Zoom, just one moment. I'm going live on YouTube. Zoom, just one moment. I'm going live on YouTube. All right, so this movie, this video is being live streamed on YouTube, but I'm sure most of you are used to that. For those of you who are on here, I want to say welcome. Oh no, that's switched. We don't want to see what's on my fridge, although there are some good magnets. So where am I going to pop in? So we'll pop in over here. Hello, I am Karen, your host for Epicure Nutrition's live cooking demo. I want to welcome you to my kitchen and let's get started on what we're making. So maybe we'll have Bentley around a little bit later, my lovely little pooch, for those of you who don't know. And we're going to talk a little bit about the ingredients for Saag Paneer. You should see the recipe in the chat box, so you can grab it there. And I did pre-prep some stuff, but we're going to be prepping some other things. All right, so to get started, you can see in the one pan that we have the paneer, which is the cheese, and that would be these. It's cooking because we want to cook that before we get things started. What it comes in is in here. I have the what I was trying to get. So in here I have the paneer, which is a white cheese, firm, similar to a feta in texture or a halloumi, but the flavor is a bit more bland. More like a regatta or a farmer's cheese. But what's nice about it is that it's nice and thick, and you can see I have it on a medium-high heat here, and when it cooks, it doesn't melt, it's just browning. And I might have gotten this a little bit too brown. You want it a little bit more along the lines of that. So I'm going to turn my heat down a little bit. You don't need to get all the sides cooked, but if you can get a few of them cooked, that'll be nice. This is a good color. This is a good color. That's a little bit dark. So we're just going to turn it. And then this is tofu. Oops. And that's what we have in here is the tofu. You can see this is a pretty firm tofu. What I did was I froze it. And then after I froze it, I had it overnight with a cast iron pan on top of it and a strainer colander, and it got most of the water out. So it's pretty thick. So the reason for the tofu, you're like, why tofu if it's Saag Paneer? Well, in case somebody wanted to make this vegan, they could make it vegan by using tofu. I went to Whole Foods the other day and I did see paneer there. So paneer is available at some regular grocery stores, but if not, you can substitute, like I mentioned, you can substitute like feta, halloumi, and you can even make your own paneer cheese, and maybe we'll do that at some point. And all I did with them is put them on a medium-high heat with some ghee in there. We'll talk about ghee in a minute, and just kept on rotating them for about 10 minutes, which is why they're a little bit more well done. I'm just taking them off the pan and putting them on a paper towel to get rid of any potential residual fat, because we don't want them too greasy from the ghee. And then I'm going to leave the ghee in there because you'll see what we're going to do with that in a minute. I'm going to go back and introduce a bunch of the ingredients. Whoops. Well, we know Bentley ain't going to eat that one. I just wanted to take this off the heat. So I'm going to move that over here to the side. All right, now let's rewind and get to the beginning. So with Saag Paneer, I'll go over the different ingredients. We have a pound of spinach. You can use baby spinach, which will have a bit of a softer taste. I got to move this camera for a minute. See, not angled too badly. Let's get out a little bit more. Okay, so I have baby spinach here, about 10 ounces, which comes out to be about 8 cups, somewhere in between loosely and tightly packed. It'll give you a bit of a softer taste than if you use regular spinach. And you can also mix other greens in there, such as kale or fenugreek, if you could find it, the flowering part, not the seeds. And you can use mustard, collard greens, beet greens. So you can use different things in there in combination with the spinach to give you a total of about 8 cups. The spinach will need to be chopped, which you'll see I have some of it chopped here, and we'll chop the rest, and I'll show you a couple of different ways to do that. We have the ghee, and some of you might be wondering what ghee is. Ghee is a clarified butter. We can do it this way. Ghee is a clarified butter. And what they do is they melt it and then they take out the milk solids. So for someone who's a little bit lactose intolerant, they might be able to get away with ghee where they wouldn't be able to get away with regular butter. However, ghee is more fat dense, therefore it has more calories than regular butter does. We got the paneer and the tofu, which we already talked about. You're going to use about 8 ounces of that. You have a small onion, which you want to have chopped, you want it finely chopped. So I have some of that there. I do have to admit I did cheat because I realized I didn't have any onion, which I was surprised about. So I did have some frozen onion. So I just pulled that out. And then we'll go through and prepare some of it. We have ginger, and the ginger has been finely minced. We'll mince the rest of it. You're going to use about a 2-inch piece. We have 3 cloves of garlic. You can grate it or you can finely mince it. I'll do both of those with you. And then for some additional seasoning, we have a chili. You can use it or omit it if you don't want it to be spicy at all. And you can also use just red chili flakes if you want. For spices, we have coriander and turmeric in here. And you're like, I'm not going to get coriander. I never use coriander except for this one dish. Well, a good seasoning to always have in the house is cumin. So you can just replace the coriander with cumin. But the cumin is a little bit more pungent, so you might want to use a little bit less. And here we have turmeric, which we know is really good to help with inflammation. Granted, you do need an awful lot of turmeric. Otherwise, everybody who's been using turmeric for centuries wouldn't have inflammation. Here we have fennel seeds. Fennel seeds are nice to have in the house as well because it helps and aids in digestion. So if you're having a little bit of indigestion, sometimes you can take mint. At a lot of your Indian restaurants, they have, I know I have some in here. Woo-hoo! They have these little candies, and what they are is it's candied fennel. And you can see some fennel in there as well. And they take like a teaspoon of this after a meal to help with digestion. I'm going to take it before a meal to help with digestion. So having fennel seeds in the house is nice, but if you don't have fennel seeds, You can use a combination of cumin once again and celery seeds, but the fennel also has a bit of an anise flavor, so you can use anise as well. So here are some cumin seeds just to give you an idea of what they look like. They kind of look like the fennel seeds or caraway seeds. Caraway seeds could be used as well, although it does have a bit of a different taste. So I'm going to use the cumin seeds. You can also use powdered cumin, which I think every kitchen should have. And I think that, oh, and I have some lemon juice. I have some yogurt. You can omit the yogurt if you want. You can also use heavy cream instead. We're going to do a little bit of lemon juice. And I think that that goes through all the ingredients. If you have any questions, please do put it in the chat box and I will look at that. Now, one of the things my mom yelled at me for after my last cooking demo, well, she didn't really yell, but I can say she yelled because she's not on it today. Excuse me. 1 second. She said she likes to have everything prepped ahead of time and then start cooking. So that's what I'm going to finish doing. So I will take the ginger and finish prepping that. So what I took the skin off the ginger first, but normally I just use a spoon to do that. And then I'm going to cut off this end because it looks a little funky. And this end. All right. And then what I'm going to do is just thinly slice it. I'm using a paring knife. You can also use a chef's knife, but make sure you use a sharp knife because the way to get cut is using a dull knife. And then remember, you're going to use it. I think I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. I'm just going to use that bare claw to finely dice it. Now, what you can also do with the ginger is what I'm going to do with the garlic, which is you can use a grater on it. And another neat thing that they have is, I don't think it's as good as using fresh, but it keeps longer and helps prevent waste, is that you can get frozen ginger and then you can just pull out a cube of that, or you can get crushed ginger, diced ginger in a container as well. You can also preserve your ginger in a little bit of sherry or cooking wine, and that helps preserve like a stalk of ginger so it doesn't go bad. So we finished that with the ginger, and I don't have my garbage bowl on the table. I kind of have it in the sink behind me. All right, so one of the things that you can do is if you have a big enough piece of garlic and you don't want it minced, another thing that you can do with it, I think I need to pull this out a little bit. There we go. You can grate it. So if you have something like this, you can just go through and grate it, but you'll want to watch out for your fingers. And then the problem I find with doing this is I have these pieces left over, and I'm a person who doesn't like to waste. So what I'm going to wind up doing anyway, I'm going to pull it out from the inside and wherever else it flew to. Let me get rid of that. What I'm going to wind up doing anyway is probably mincing a bunch of it anyhow. So I would probably just mince it all on my own. Once again, you can get the garlic that's already pre-minced, or you can use the frozen garlic. But I think that fresh generally has a better taste. And I'll add a little bit more. So I'll put that in. And so that's about 3 cloves of garlic that I have minced. We have the 2 inches of ginger minced. We have the onion and frozen onion. I mean, you can see it's a little bit, it has a little bit more water to it. So you can drain it, or in this recipe where it calls for asking for half a cup of water, we could just omit some of that. And when the onion's actually frozen, it actually is really easy to cut. You can see as it gets defrosted, it makes it a little bit more challenging. I just couldn't believe I didn't have onion in my house. It's unheard of. but thank goodness I had some frozen so I could use it in a pinch. I don't have any interns right now, or they're not here. So normally I'm a little bit more prepped with them from the night before. And I'm still, I guess, on a little bit of summer island time. I can go by island time since I live in Manhattan. I think so. So we're just going to put that in there for our diced onions. All right, so that has us prepped. We've got our protein, which is the cheese or the tofu. We have the onion, the ginger, the garlic, the chili pepper. We've got to do that. Now, what you can do is you can wear gloves when you cut a chili pepper, because sometimes if you touch your eye, you forget and you touch your eye, especially after touching the seeds, it can really burn, or even your skin. Up to you if you want to leave the seeds in, depending on how hot you want it. And this chili pepper as well is from my freezer as well, because I had it in there from a time when I had gotten a bunch of chili peppers. You can use all of it, a part of it, or like I said, just use dried chili peppers. So I'm going to switch to my chef's knife, and because it'll be easier to, since I had this in fine strips, to then get this diced. And the nice thing about adding the yogurt to it is that if it is a little bit spicy, the dairy and the yogurt will help calm things down. But if you want to make it vegan, just omit it altogether, or you could use a plant-based yogurt as well. The nice thing about the yogurt is that it has the probiotics in it, which we all know help with our healthy microbiome, if you've been listening to a few of my different webinars. And even the plant-based yogurts will have the probiotics, and this has a bit of the prebiotics in it with having the spinach with the fiber. All right, I'm just going to pick up the chili and put it in here. I'm just double checking my list. So then after the chili was the coriander, the cumin, the turmeric, the fennel, which I all have set aside. Then the salt and pepper will be to taste, and lemon juice we can just do at the end. All right. So I'm going to just get rid of this into my little garbage bowl, which is in my sink, because I have a tiny Manhattan kitchen. Now, you want to try to get the spinach somewhat uniform, but it doesn't need to be perfect. I'll show you how to use the chopper, but if you don't have a chopper, you can just take it and chop it yourself. It might be a little bit more coarse than if you were to use an electronic chopper, but you'll just take a bunch, and you just want to make sure that you're practicing safe knife skills with using that bear claw. And then I'll just go through the opposite way. And I'm just going to chop it up. But you can see that if you're going through and you're doing 8 cups, this could take a while, and you probably would wind up having it a bit more coarse. If you run into some big stems, you can take them out or leave them in. That's completely up to you and your preference. So you'll see the difference between these two spinach, where this one's definitely coarser, this one's definitely finer. I'm going to just combine them all together because I like different textures and different sizes of things, because to me it adds to the sensuality of the dish. All right, so that's how you would use that. I'm going to pull this aside because I think we're pretty much done with that. Ignore the little yogurt spill. That was happening as I was prepping the yogurt. All right, so here I have my Cuisinart, so it's my food processor. I got this from a friend in San Francisco. Oh my goodness, probably 23 years ago now or so. And he had this before me when he got his new one. So I can't even imagine how old this one is. Finally, a piece of it broke and I've got to figure out how to get it fixed, but I have figured out how to use it. All right. And I hope those of you in New York did manage to go and vote today. So with this, you don't want to plop all 8 cups in there at once, because then it's really going to make some of it pureed and some of it, there we go. Some of it pureed and some of it not cut at all. So I put the blade in, and normally what I did before is I put like a heaping fistful in there and then pulse it for about, do like 10 to 15 pulses. This is where it broke and I gotta fit it in there. Ooh, and I have to plug it in, otherwise we're not going to get very far. All right. All right, so I only did 10 because I had a little bit less than what I had before. And I think you can see the inside of it. Did I go too far? Yep, you see the inside of it and you see how it pulsed it pretty good, and it's pretty uniform in size. So scrape that off. This is the little piece that broke. So, because with this, they've got a safety where you got to have this pushed down in here before it'll run. So I can't lose that piece. All right. So then just give me a moment as I get this out of the way. What I wouldn't do for a huge kitchen to do these demos in someday. All right. Then I'm just going to put the rest of it in here. Now, normally, if I'm doing it, I would probably be prepping along the way. But I thought I would meet the needs and the requests of my viewers. All right, so we've got that. And so the instructions were prepare the spinach, which we got that done. We did the 1 tablespoon of ghee or butter and did the paneer, but we're also putting in a little bit of tofu to have a vegan version of it if you wanted to. So now I am going to turn the heat back on the pan, and I'm going to put it at a medium low, and I'm going to add the remainder of the ghee. If you don't have ghee, you can just use regular butter or you can use oil. This is what the ghee looks like. You can see that it's pretty thick. There we go. And it's hard to see because of the yellow color. So I'm putting in the other tablespoon. You can use less if you want, because especially if you're concerned about weight and fat and calories, and the saturated fat in this, the sodium's good. This has 0 sodium. But it does have 15% saturated fat. I was looking to see if I had a butter, but I don't. Woo! But I don't, to see what the saturated fat is in butter. But like I said, there is less water content in the ghee. Ooh, probably put a little bit more than I wanted to. So I'm just going to take a little bit of it out because I don't want that much in there. All right. So we'll let the ghee continue to melt. And we want to get the ghee a little bit warm, because what we want to do is we want to toast our spices. One of the great things that they do in Indian cooking is they toast the spices before adding other things, and it becomes so aromatic that it's absolutely amazing. And Great, we see everything. So we'll just give it a minute. So this, for those of you who have been with me for a while, is a follow-up to the Ayurvedic presentation that I gave, was it in June or July? And then I got COVID and then it all just went downhill and it was summer, but then I decided we got to get back into the swing of things. So here we are doing that. All right, so you can see there's a little bit of dancing for the spinach that was on there. So with that, what I'm going to add is I am going to put in the onions, and those you want to cook until they're softened, because I'm using the frozen ones. They're already pretty much softened, but we're going to let this cook for a few minutes to see if we can get them a little bit browned. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or to ask in the chat box, and the recipe is in the chat box. For those of you on YouTube, let me take a quick look there since I have a moment. And I don't see anything quite yet. So if you have something, let me know. And if I don't get to it right away, I apologize. Just hold on and I will. The onions, you can hear them starting to cook a little bit. You hear the I don't have any pre-made, so we're kind of going with it. So what I'll do in the for time purposes, I added the garlic. I'm going to add the ginger. And I'm going to taste these chili peppers first to see how hot they are. No, it's not too spicy, so I'm going to just do it all. All right. So we'll let this cook for a little bit. And I wish that at some point we're going to have smell-o-vision, and you're going to be able to smell this when I'm doing a cooking demo. So you'll see how amazing it is. In the chat box, what you can do, or leave it as a comment in YouTube, tell me if you want to do another cook along next month and what you would like to do a cook along with. And I'll be happy to do that. So we cook this for about a minute until we can smell that fragrance, which I can. So with that, I am going to add the remainder of the spices. So that was the coriander and the turmeric. These are the cumin seeds, or you can use powdered ground cumin. And then here we have the fennel. And once again, if you don't have the fennel, you can just add a little bit more cumin. And if you have celery seeds, you can add the cumin and the celery seeds together, and it makes a nice combination. From here, it's going to be pretty quick. Just going to combine it. Oh my goodness, I wish you could smell this. That's what's fun about doing the cook along. All right, we just had this, it's pretty well blended. We had it cook for about 30 seconds. I'm now going to add the spinach. And once again, you can do a different combination of greens, not only spinach. And that's what the Saag is in the Saag paneer, is the spinach. So what we need to do is add a little bit of water to this. You can do a quarter or a half a cup. I'm going to do a little bit less because I had that liquid from the onions. You can also blanch your spinach ahead of time if you're concerned about the green going away. Oops, we did get one big piece in there. So we're going to be on a medium heat, and I'm just going to kind of let this sit so the spinach can cook. Maybe you can see some pieces of the onion I didn't get finely minced enough. My sister would have a heart attack. She hates onion. Any questions? I think I'm going to add just a little bit more water and use that full half a cup. So this takes maybe about 5 to 8 minutes to cook, depending on what your heat is, how much spinach we want. It's okay if there's some liquid left, but it's remaining that beautiful green color, and I didn't blanch the leaves, so that's nice. And I did use baby spinach, so it'll have a little less pungency than if I used regular spinach. So next month, the webinar on the first Tuesday of the month, that is, I think, September 3rd or 6th or something like that, right after Labor Day weekend. We're going to talk about meal prepping and meal planning, and how sometimes we get a little confused that if we're meal prepping or meal planning, that we have to cook everything on one day. And that's not necessarily the case. So we'll talk about the difference between meal prepping and meal planning, and we'll discuss on what ways it'll best work for you and in your lifestyle. I don't see any comments in the chat box about cooking demo or a cook along and what you'd like to cook that's pretty much plant-based. All right, I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice. This is a great little gadget that I found. And what the lemon juice will do too is it'll help with the color. Oops, and I got some, supposed to prevent from getting the seeds in there, and I got some seeds in there. Go figure. Just going to take those out because I don't want them in there. Looks like I got them all out. I'm going to give it a stir. And I might have been able to go without adding that extra water as we see more coming out from the spinach, but that's okay. Not the end of the world. I am going to add I'm going to add both most of the paneer and the tofu in there so it can get warm, a little bit warmer again. Didn't add all of it because we're going to leave some of it to place on top. Just going to stir this in. You can also do this in a pot. It doesn't have to be in a pan. Let's cook it for a few minutes more to warm up
Hey, Karen.
the tofu and the cheese.
Hey, Karen, the chat's disabled.
I'm sorry, Scott, what was your question? Let me turn up the volume. Hold on.
The chat is disabled.
What's disabled?
The chat and my brain.
Oh, your brain and mine too. Huh. It doesn't show that it's disabled.
I don't know, maybe it's just for us. Matt tried to pull it up, but
oh my, it does say participant can chat with no one. So let's put everyone. Now try.
yes, and now it works.
Okay, wonderful. That was totally me. My apologies. Thank you for bringing it to my attention.
No worries.
Woohoo! All right. All right. Ooh, so that got this some time with that, fixing that up a little bit. So now you can put in the chat for those of you on Zoom. So we've got that, and we're going to make it a little creamy by adding the yogurt. You could, once again, like I said, use a plant-based, or you can use heavy cream. I prefer the yogurt over the heavy cream because it's going to, it has more nutritional value with the addition of protein as well as probiotics. So this makes a really nice, complete one pot meal if you think about it. Because, and you could add another common ingredient in Indian food is chickpeas, garbanzo beans, whatever you want to call them. And so you can add those in here. And that'll also increase the amount of fiber and protein. Yep, I definitely would have used less water because we can see this is a little liquidy. But once you serve it with some rice, because it typically goes over rice, or you can have it with some naan, which is a bread, but you can use pita if you can't find the naan. I hope I was able to give ample suggestions of what you could do if you couldn't find the items in the grocery store. And then when you go to serve it, we're getting there. I guess this is an advantage of having a small kitchen because you can just kind of go back and forth. So I do not have any rice today, but I am, and you can also use the tofu in lieu, mix the tofu and the paneer together so you can get a little bit of, a little bit more protein with the soy and a little bit less fat from using less cheese. So you can have that. And then you can always serve it with one on top. If you put it in a big bowl, you can put the uncooked ones in there. I'm just going to turn that off. And then we, of course, have got to have the last bit of this, as always. What am I going to do? We can do that. And I'm going to get my face in there. You can smell the spinach, the cheese, the yogurt, the different spices. I have to say that's some pretty good saag paneer. The cumin seeds really come out where perhaps the powder, or not perhaps, but the powder would be a little bit less intense. And if you don't like the taste of fennel or that licoricey taste, you can by all means just leave it out. The tofu is cooked so well that there is, how can I explain it? To me, it has a decent flavor. And then let's taste the paneer. I just love paneer. You just can't really go wrong with paneer. There we go. Yep, I have the camera hanging out of my microwave. That's how you make it happen in a New York City kitchen. And I like the yogurt in there. I think it gives it a little bit nice tang, and especially if you have some spicy peppers in there. That'll be really good. I hope I'm making you hungry right now, because this is really good. That would be it. And as my old videos would go, that's vegetarian. And can even be vegan if you use the tofu and use oil instead of the ghee. So very easy to make this a vegan dish. All right, with that concluding it, what questions do we have? Oh, we got it. Are you going to serve this with rice? No, I am not serving it with rice because I did not make rice. But you know, here's something else you can do. So I ordered some Chinese food the other day, and they give you way too much rice with the Chinese food. Plus, one of my friends who I order Chinese with doesn't eat the rice at all. So I keep it and save it in my fridge. So I do have some Chinese rice, which is different than the basmati rice that they generally use in Indian restaurants, which is just a slightly different flavor, slightly different grain. But I could always use that rice with this. So that's something else to do and to consider to use if you don't feel like making rice. And I've frozen the rice, taken it out, and that would work just fine. Any other questions? Well, then I'm gonna go and eat my dinner. See what Bentley's up to. Poor little guy. Whoops. Chewed a little bit on his tail. And now he miserable. I haven't had it this watery before with adding the water. So you might want to leave the water out until the end and see if you need it, because the spinach, put a little bit in, maybe a couple tablespoons to help the spinach go. You can always drain that off if you want, or cook it a little bit. Take most of the spinach out and cook it longer and make a thicker sauce with that liquid so you get the flavor, and then put it on top. That's another option you can do when you have too much water in something. Just remove the majority of it, leave the water in there, cook it so it reduces until it's a bit of a thicker syrupy type texture, and just use that. All right, well, on that note, I want to say thank you very, very much for joining Epicure Nutrition. We'll see you on the first Tuesday to do meal planning and meal prepping and meal planning. Now, meal planning and meal prepping, because you got to do the planning before the prepping. And we'll figure out what we're going to do for our cooking demo then. I'll have some interns by then, and maybe they'll have an idea of what they want to do. All right, be well. Have a beautiful, wonderful week, and we'll see you in the beginning of September. But please reach out to me at Karen@epicurenutrition.net if you have any questions, or anything comes up between now and then, and I'll be happy to help you. And I'm now going to enjoy my meal. Bye-bye. I am stopping.